So when I was 14, I decided I needed a job, and I decided to approach a friend of mine. I approached a guy by the name of Roger. Now, Roger was 1/8 Native American Indian, and to me, he was like a wise old Indian, but he was also 14, just like me. So I said to Roger, "Do you know anyone who's hiring?" And Roger goes, like the wise old Indian he was, how do you feel about guns?" Now, then and now, I've been relatively anti-gun, but then and now, I was very pro-capitalist. So I told Roger, let's talk about it. So the next Tuesday evening, I found myself at the Southern Lancaster County Farmers/Sportsmen's Association, where I was going to be a pooler at the trap shooting range. Now, Roger introduces me to the guy in charge, and his name was Buck Sheets. And Buck Sheets was a rootin' tootin', tobacco chewing, boots a banging cowboy, complete with a 10-gallon hat on his head. And Buck spits out some tobacco and he looks at me and he goes, "Here's the deal. $4 a work, $10. You don't tell Uncle Sam, neither will I. 1 free hot dog, 1 free Coke. And before you get pissed off at any of my customers, just remember, some of them can shoot." Now, if you've never understood what trap shooting is, let me explain it to you really quickly. You have 6 people shooting shotguns. Behind them, up on a lifeguard chair, is the guy who is the pooler. And the idea is one person says pool, and the target, which we refer to as a pigeon, but it was a small frisbee that actually looked like a frisbee, it would go into the air and they would try to shoot it. We would go down the line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they would say pool. And I thought to myself, well, this should be a pretty easy job, but it wasn't. Because what would happen would be every one of them would say pool in a different way. So the first shooter would go up and he'd go, "Pool!" And I'd try to do it as quick as I could, but of course I was too slow. And you have a guy with a gun, he turns and he glares at you like you were too fast. Well, then the next guy, he's trying to keep his heart rate down, so he goes, "Pool." And I'm trying to keep up. And it's like being the drummer in 6 different bands at once. And every time you get it wrong, you're like, "Would you like a do-over?" And so you do it again, and there's no rhythm whatsoever. But I had never seen it done before. And so I do the best I can. The only training I had was I watched Roger do 1 round. And a couple weeks later, Buck Sheets walks up to me and he goes, "Listen to me. You are the best pooler this club's ever had." Well, at the age of 14, no one had ever said I was the best at anything. I was like, wow, I am the best pooler ever. Now, if the internet would have been around back then, I would have gone home, I would have Googled career opportunities for professional poolers, would have found there were none. I would have looked into college scholarships for poolers, I would have found out there were none. But all I had was Buck. And I knew that later that summer there was going to be a tournament, and in the tournament I could actually make 50% more money, get $15 instead of $10. So I was envisioning this future for myself. So one day I'm in the clubhouse, I'm feeling all cool, and I tell the other guys, I'm like, "You know, Buck says I'm the best pooler this club ever had." And if you've ever said something and you know it's the wrong thing, everybody gets really, really quiet. And one kid looks at me and goes, "He says that to all of us." And I look to Roger, the wise old Indian, and I say, "Roger, is that true?" And Roger goes, "No, he only says that to the bad ones." Well, about this point, I hear my name getting called to go pool another round, and I suddenly realize I'm not good at this. I'm actually really, really bad, and I don't know what to do. Next thing I know, Buck's got his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, "What you doing?" I said, "Buck, I can't do this." And Buck goes, "Listen, like my pappy always said, you can only tell who's wearing the pants when the tide goes out. Now you get out there and you pool that round." And then he looks at another shooter and goes, "Zeke, you grab some pine, I'm going to shoot around." Well, I had never seen Buck Sheets shoot before. And now the guy who's in charge of the club is going to watch me pooling. So we go out, Buck takes the spot, he's down on number 6. First guy says, "Pool," I get it wrong, I go too fast. Next guy goes, "Pool," I get too slow. And the round is going terrible. And now the corner of my eye, while I'm trying to watch all this, Buck's down the end, and he's just like looking at a dandelion. He's not even paying attention. And we get down to the end, and suddenly Buck goes, "Pool!" And I don't know what to do. I hit the button, the target flies out. Buck whips up his shotgun, and he blows the target clean out of the sky. And I was like, I've never even seen that before. We go back through another round. Pool, I'm slow. Pool, I'm fast. And we go all the way down the line. Now Buck's got his arms crossed, and suddenly he's like, Bill! And he whips that gun up, and he blows it right out of the sky. 25 targets in a row from Buck's sheets. It was amazing. So at the end, I've got 5 shooters. They're all glaring at me. They want a free round. And Buck's just laughing. And he looks and he goes, let me tell you something. Like my pappy always said, if you think the pheasants are going to hop just because you say pool, you got another thing coming. And that's why this here is the best pooler this club's ever had. Buck walks away, 5 guys with shotguns staring at me. 1 month later, I resigned. I went to go work at the drug company, the Quarryville Drug Company downtown, where I was able to negotiate a 25% raise, $3.35 an hour. I had to give up the hot dog, I had to give up the Coke. When I told Buck, he took it like a man. He said, well, like my grandpappy always said, some cowboys just got too much tumbleweed in their pants. Thank you.